Screw that countdown.
I thought it was a little abbreviated for the countdown. That's all good. We're back and better than ever though, right? For another episode of the Creative Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. See,
Nailed
I'm getting it. I'm getting it. How are you doing this fine day, Mr. Kaufman?
Oh, getting ready for this trip,
Yeah.
mentally and I don't know, getting everything packed up, and actually I haven't started packing, but I'm sure the wife is in there like preparing stuff for us now. So
Well, truth be known, I have not started packing yet either. But yes, my wife has started staging the entire situation. Has been staging. So I believe we'll probably pack. The bulk of it will probably be coming soon. I would say.
they're great to have around, man. Oh man, I don't know what I'd do, honestly.
I
I'd
was
be
I was thinking that to myself earlier. I was like, man, well, she's got some of this shit out already. It's like, all right, well, it's going. It's in process, so to speak.
yeah, I'd be eating chicken fingers and pizza and beer every night, you know. But in fact,
Yeah,
I'm actually
that's all you're right. Yep. And for those of you that don't know, we are traveling to Los Cabos, Mexico, because Ken here, moi, has some business to take care of. We are taking possession finally. 4 years and 6 weeks after signing the original contract. 4 years and 6 weeks. We're taking possession of one of our condos next week, and I have just had the last back and forth. 50. I know you enjoy this a lot. 58 emails back and forth over the last month in order for me to finally get what I wanted, in order to take possession of it next week. So I believe we are all set now. So I will sleep better tonight knowing that we are all set
like a
in the
full
background.
time job right there. That's crazy.
It has been it's been an interesting thing. It's been much harder. We used to own a condo in Costa Rica. Much easier process than this has been, mind you. Interestingly enough, but
Are you
we'll get
serious?
there. We'll get there, brother. And appreciate you coming down there to join us in Los Cabos to
Yeah, man.
having our annual business meeting in Los Cabos this year.
So Costa Rica was harder to deal with than Mexico?
No, Costa Rica is much easier. It's much easier.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's a U.S. territory, so.
But much more so than Mexico is. Yes, I agree with that. Much more gringo friendly than Mexico has been so far. But we're gonna make it work, brother. We're in it now, right?
Yes, sir.
So that all said, I would digress into that. So what is on the agenda for the podcast episode today, Mr. Kaufman?
Well, we are going to talk about something that you are intimately familiar with because it just happened to you today.
Yes.
Or you just dealt with them today. We're going to talk about title companies today. And what do we call them? The Hunting the Unicorn is the title.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about investor-friendly title companies and give some tips and pointers on how to find them, how to talk to them, how to prepare for them, and just a general overall how to deal with title companies. And I'm going to kick this off by giving you a story. And I've told this story before, so I know I repeat myself a lot. I'm accused of that all the time. But
they're good stories, though.
The very first deal that I ever did, as many of you, you may or may not know, but the very first deal I ever did, I bought the property subject to. Really didn't know what I was doing. I was buying the thing off of a quick claim deed, and would not recommend that these days. It does work in some cases when speed is a real problem. But I bought this thing and I took all my paperwork up to kind of one of your cookie cutter types of types of title companies. You know, what are
Traditional standard type.
right. And you know, I turned all the paperwork in and gave them my contract and everything, and I get a call back. I don't know, maybe a couple days later, and they were like, "We have no idea what you're doing here. Like, what is, what is this?" And I don't blame them for that because I was really, really green at the time. Uh, and essentially, what I learned through that whole transaction, the way it turned out was we actually, myself and the title company, we actually kind of learned this process together. And so we kind of coached each other up on what we could do, what we couldn't do, and we got the deal closed. Uh, but during that process, I learned something really, really valuable, and that is that a bag of bagels or a box of donuts goes a really long way at a title company. It really does. I didn't come up with that. I got that advice from I had a coach at the time, and he was not wrong. That is absolutely true. A bag of bagels or a box of donuts goes a really long way at a title company. They will
100%.
they will bend over backwards for you. So let's jump into this, I suppose. I don't know where you want to start here.
Well, let's go with. Can we go back to something you said too? Let's talk about. So, you're a new investor, right? Or maybe you're going into a different market and buying or something too. So now you got to set your
Yeah,
whole team up there, and of course, the first thing that has to happen, right, is a good title company. So you can't just Google title companies. Okay, that's going to give you the traditional or the national title companies or whatever nonsense they pay for Google ads to get on top of the search in there too. That's not what you want. The standard, as you mentioned, your standard national chain, or even a lot of your local ones, they they are used to the real estate agent buy sell transaction. So
yeah,
by that I mean they expect to see a realtor contract. They expect to see a loan, a pre-approved buyer come in with a loan from Bank of America or a local bank or whatever, and they make the buy sell transaction on the settlement statement. It's very easy, right? And they do that all day long, every day, and they just change the numbers in the transaction and they charge you $1,000 of closing fees, right? All day long, every day. That is not what you need when you're an investor, right? You need to make sure that you target down and figure out who those are. So what would you say, we'll probably do this a little out of order from our points here too, but what would you say are the best ways to find those investor friendly title companies, Mr. Kaufman?
today today it's social media because they're all over social media. And if they're not, then you have all of these investor groups. Uh, I mean, today it's actually pretty easy to find, particularly now that this kind of this creative finance and subject to stuff is really taken off. If you ask a or if you make a post with a really pointed question, hey, what title companies out there will close a subject to deal? You're going to get an answer more than likely. Now you're still going to have to do a lot of vetting because some of them say that, but some of them are just better than others at doing it. Some of them are more understanding. Some of them are more. I'm not even going to say laxed because it's not a matter of being in a gray area. What we do is totally legal. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that some of those title companies, even if they will close a subject to deal, they just I don't know. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but they're kind of they're very rigid in their and I mean it's totally their right to be that way, but they're rigid because they don't understand. They're generally rigid because they don't fully grasp. Um, well, I mean, I'll give you an example. In that one subject to deal that I was just telling you about, where I closed with that national, well, the kind of the big chain around here. When the closer was asking me, she was talking to me. She's like, she goes, I don't know what you're doing. She said, you're going to buy this house, but you're not paying off the loan. And I was like, yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm going to take over and start making payments on that mortgage. And she said, well, like, well, I don't know if we can do that. And I said, well, you know, I've heard of it being done before, so let's kind of figure out a way. And then it dawned on me that what we're doing at a title company is we're buying a title policy. We're buying a policy that warrants, it provides a warranty for the entire chain of title previous to you buying it. That's what we're doing when we're buying a title policy. And so it dawned on me that, well, why don't you just exclude this particular lien from your title policy? It doesn't. Right. It just makes more sense to do that. It's one less. It's one less thing that you have to guarantee. It actually, if you look at it, if you look at this from an underwriting perspective, you're actually, you know, if I came back to you later on and I said, hey, you know, you guys didn't pay off this lien. I don't have a record of it. You could just say, you just throw your hands up there and say, hey, well, we have it written right here that we didn't warrant, or we didn't cover, our policy does not cover that lien. And so it's actually, if you really think about this, it's actually beneficial, more beneficial. It's safer for a title company, even though they might argue with me on this. It's actually safer for a title company to exclude certain liens. It's because they don't have to cover them. So, you know, that's something that I never really understood, and I've said it a million times since then. I've brought it up a million times to different title companies ever since that day, and I'm not going to say I successfully changed anyone's mind, but maybe I had a little hand in planting a seed. Let's put it that way.
And can we just talk about the title companies in a little deeper? Most title companies are owned by attorneys. Okay, and so just like anything else that has to do with the law, you can ask 10 real estate attorneys their opinion on anything, and you get 10 different responses. Well, title companies are much like that. So it just depends on who their owner is and how risk tolerant they are. Because closing subject to deals, right, it is creative financing, and it is riskier. There's not a doubt about that, right? And so some of them don't want to be bothered with that. They want the standard transactions. That's their business model. So you just have to understand that the title companies, even though it's legal to do a subject to deal, even though it's legal to take title in the trust, some title companies don't want to mess with that or bother with that, because sometimes, depending on what state you're in, like here in Missouri, let's just go into what happened with me today. So here in Missouri, there is no land trust statute. There is no statute in Missouri law that specifically outlines a land trust. There are trust statutes in Missouri. Revocable and irrevocable are mentioned in trust. A land trust is a revocable type trust by definition. Okay, so you can create a trust in Missouri and you can put whatever you want in that trust. There is no statute in Missouri that prevents that. So by definition, when you put a piece of real estate in that trust, it becomes a land trust because it's holding the land, right? The real estate. That's the definition of a land trust. Its asset is a piece of real estate. Okay, so that is not illegal in Missouri. However, the title company we were doing a refinance at, the title company, and we had the property in trust prior to the refinance. And interestingly enough, the commercial lender that we were refinancing with had the loan documents prepared, and they were going to lend to the trust, not even to the LLCs who were the beneficiaries of the trust, which is typical, right? They were going to lend to the trust. So the bank was totally fine with it. And I didn't even know that till after the fact. I thought they were lending to the beneficiary of the trust, but whatever, it doesn't really make any difference. But the bank was totally fine with it, interestingly enough, and they're the ones at risk for the funds. But the title company said, yeah, we're not doing the trust. We're not doing the land trust.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's nothing illegal about that, but it's okay. So anyway, at the last minute, we had to reorganize things because we were so far down the rabbit hole. I didn't want to go to a different title company, which was an option we had, right? We could have just transferred it to a different title company, which the bank was fine with, by the way, because I had a conversation with them about it. But I was like, no, let's just close it. It'll be fine because I didn't want to mess with it. Because I get a little lazy. So actually, it's been a 5-month refinance process, if you remember, Mr. Kaufman, and there's been many ups and downs along the way. So I was a little tired of it. So that was another reason Ken got a little tired of the situation. But it's just a matter of, and we close at other title companies that do the trust all day, every day, right? And so you just have to understand where the title company is. And the title company I closed at today is great. In fact, the experience of the closing, how on top of everything they are, is terrific. They're a very good title company from that perspective. They just don't want the shadow of the gray area of a land trust anywhere around them. Okay. Right. So if you know that, that's fine. Just use them when you can, and then just go over here to this other title company when you have a trust situation. It's all good, right? Just like any other business model, you just have to kind of understand where the title companies are coming from. But I also want to hit on one thing that you mentioned. What exactly, and I know this isn't on our script too, but what exactly does a title company do? Like, I don't know that many people can actually answer that with any kind of certainty. What they're actually doing is they're running the property. They're running the history of title on the property to make sure that there is nothing back, right? That's an issue. In other words, all liens were paid off. There's no mechanics liens. There's no judgment liens. There's no whatever. Like, it's a clean history of title. In other words, there's no cloud on title. That is their job. And they warrant that to you in the form of title insurance, right? And what you mentioned is they can exclude wherever they want from the title insurance, and they can exclude that subject to loan, the pre-existing loan. They can exclude that. And I highly recommend, if you've not done this as a real estate investor, and it was a while, like, I'm going to be honest with you, it was a while before I actually read every word of the title commitment. Read the title commitment, and you might be shocked and stunned about the bullshit they exclude anyway.
It's true. I was just getting ready to say that.
Insurance isn't insuring much of anything.
Yeah.
For being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a rubber stamp. There was one property I bought. Now I got a super smoking deal on this thing. I mean, this thing, it was probably worth right around $100K ish, something like that. Wasn't it was in a rental area. But I picked this thing up for like $9,000, and then I found out going through closing that there was I can't remember the exact amount, but there was a second recorded against this property that had never been paid. It had been recorded for like 25 years. And it had never been paid. And so when they researched it, they realized, well, this is still a valid second. And then also there were sewer liens against the property. Something to the by the way, on the second, I actually hired we had to go through this whole rigmarole where we hired a private investigator to go down and find the person who wrote that note in Florida, and we served them papers to show up. We served them papers because we filed for a I'm zoning on it right now. What's it called? I am totally zoning on what that's called right now. I'm totally zoning. Sorry about that. But anyway, we were trying to get it we were trying to see if their claim was still valid. I just can't believe I can't remember what that's called right now. But anyway, long story short, I went ahead and
you filed a quiet title suit.
Quiet title. Thank you, man.
Sorry.
Thank you. Filed for quiet title. Anyway, I went ahead and closed that deal regardless of whether or not the note holder was going to claim that they still had a stake in this property. So I went ahead and because it was such a good deal, I bought it for $9,000. So even if I did have to pay back the 22 or 25, whatever it was in that note, I was still way ahead. I was still $70,000 still $70,000 ahead in that deal. So it didn't really bother me. So in that title policy, in the commitment letter, I had that note was excluded, that loan was excluded. I had all of the MSD liens because, again, I was going to MSD is a Metropolitan Sewer District here, and so I had a sewer liens against this property.
Or better known as Satan.
Satan liens, that's what they are. I had those excluded in the title policy. By the way, don't be afraid to ask for these things either, because if you don't ask, they're just going to assume that these things are going to be paid off when you close on that deal.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, this is another reason why, if it works out in your favor, it doesn't always kill you to take on other liens besides just the mortgage. So I had plenty of juice in this deal, no problem at all. I had no problem taking on that other lien. We just excluded it from the title policy. So I just wanted to throw that out there as kind of an example of what we're talking about when we're talking about title policy exclusions. It's anything. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful with these exclusions, because if you do things like, if you buy a property, for example, and there's a mechanics lien on that property, by law and technically, although I am an attorney, the filer of that mechanics lien, the person who owns that lien against the property, if you sell that property, they can foreclose on you.
Yes,
they can, and I have seen it done. So you do want to be careful which kinds of liens that you decide to take on and to exclude out of your title policy, because if that individual sues you, you have no recourse whatsoever.
Yeah, you're out of luck. Might want to make sure that one gets paid at closing.
Right. Losing my voice here a little bit. It's getting late in the day.
So okay. So let's bring this back forward. So how do you know, like, if you're going to a title company or you call one, how do you know whether they'll actually close your deal or not? We have to ask some reasonably intelligent questions. You can't just say, do you work with wholesalers? Do you do creative deals? Well, for one, they might just lie because they want your business, right? The second one is be very specific in your questions. Have you closed a subject to deal in the last 30 days or 60 days or whatever that number is, where there is a lien that stays in place on the property? Do you provide title commitment and title insurance for those types of transactions? And again, they'll say, yes, we do, but we exclude what they should say is, but we exclude that the underlying loan from our title commitment, our title insurance.
Yeah, I have another really quick story about that. I was actually I was at a RIA. I was doing a speech at a talk, at a RIA. And I was talking about this very topic. And just so happened, someone in the audience, actually, she was from the title company that you closed with today.
Oh, nice.
And I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but somebody had asked me, because this was a local RIA. This was in our neck of the woods. And someone had asked me for the names of some title companies that would close subject to deals. So I rattled off a few of them, and someone else in the audience piped up and says, I said it.
All right.
Does this title company close subject to deals? I said, no, they don't, because I've had experience with them. And the closer sitting in the audience then piped up and said, yes, we do. And I was like,
no, you don't.
That's great. Awesome. I'll put you on the list. Awesome. Perfect. Well, then I got an email from her the following Monday. And she apologized. She just said, I apologize. I misspoke the other day. I double checked, and we do not close subject to deals.
Yep.
So,
yep.
No shadow, no gray. They don't want the gray area of the shadow even approaching them. Interestingly enough, though,
they will do wholesale deals that deal with the assignments all day, every day. That is very interesting because usually they either kind of do all the investing type stuff or they don't. So that is an interesting. Good, yeah.
Right. So I'm going to read this little quote here. I thought it was kind of, I don't know if I'm going to get many laughs out of this, but I thought it was kind of, I thought it was kind of funny. Asking a retail title company, one of your kind of strip mall title companies, to close a subject to deal is like asking a granddad to program a smartphone. I love
Yes, indeed. 100%.
Or Ken. Like
yes, or either way, that is correct. In fact, at some point in time, I don't know that this smartphone might get chucked in the ocean accidentally. Well,
I'm trying to tell you, man. I've seriously considered. I've already gotten rid of voicemail. I don't do voicemail anymore. I got rid of it like 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. It's been glorious, by the way. Having no voicemail is awesome. But now I'm just looking at it like I think I just need a flip phone. I think I'm just gonna do a flip phone.
God, yes. I'm getting closer and closer to that to myself. Yes. Lest we digress. Also, too, in the unicorn title company, you also want to get to the point, and we're to the point now where we've done enough deals and have enough experience that we send our own paperwork to the title company, and I mean all of it. I don't mean just some of it. I mean the all-inclusive deed of trust. We're a deed of trust state here in Missouri. The all-inclusive deed of trust, or the wrap mortgage if you're in a mortgage state, right? We send that to the title company.
Yeah.
Right? Because some title companies will say, well, we're not going to do the transaction unless you use our documents. Okay, but your documents aren't my documents. So you want to get to that point too. And it's fine for the title company to do documents. They do a fine job with most of it, but you got to be a little careful with your wrap mortgages. Does the title company insure and do wraps? Right?
And your disclosures and things like that. When you do a subject to deal, there's tons of disclosures and all that good stuff. Those must be signed. And so, I'm full of stories today. Another funny story is my primary title company. When I do a subject to deal, my closer actually has my documents on file for reference. They're all there, blank documents, and I'm hoping she doesn't hand those out. But she's got.
I was just going to say, you need to start getting a kickback for.
Yeah, and I will tell you, and I see what you've got up on the screen there. There have been people that have purchased that because she's referred them out to us.
Yep.
So I mean, we've got a very, very solid package of sub-2 documents that just gets the job done. There's no fluff. There's a ton of disclosures in there, and actually, this one's cool too. I do believe there's training videos on this stuff.
100%. Every document.
Yep. So there's
why we're doing the documents, what the purpose of it is, how it's covering your assets, and in many cases, several of the documents actually protect the seller.
Yeah. So, good idea. It's a good idea to have a good set of documents. But I do want to go back to answer that question that we talked about, where we're finding, or where maybe new investors, especially new investors, where they're finding good title companies, whether it's subject to or not. I mean, just regardless. They call them investor. I hate the term investor friendly.
Yeah, because it might just be a sliver of investing. Yeah.
Well, not only that, it kind of cheapens. I think it cheapens the. I'm thinking from a flipper standpoint. Anytime I see someone say, "Anybody have an investor friendly window guy?" Well, why don't you say, "Do you have the cheapest window guy you can possibly find?" I don't
who's not going to screw me over, but the window's going to last more than a year and a half, right?
Yeah, cheap means low quality, and I am not about low quality. So, a couple other sources, obviously RIAs. If you can get out to RIAs, RIAs are going to be a great resource. One that a lot of folks don't think about, though, and I actually recommend using these folks for more than just finding title companies, but hard money lenders are a fantastic resource.
Yes.
Hard money lenders, I'm telling you, they're one of the creepers. They're like one of the folks that, I mean, if you have a question about an area, if you've got a question, if there's any question about whether you should buy a property in an area, ask a hard money lender, because they're going to be honest with you, because they're looking for your business, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to say, I wouldn't, either, yeah, that's a great area. By the way, do you need a lender for that? Or they're going to say, I wouldn't buy there. I no way I'd lend on that in that area.
Yeah.
So, but likewise, they provide the same types of information on really good title companies.
Yep.
And so that could at least get you started down the road to finding a really good title company. Lean on hard money lenders, man. Instead of seeking out title companies directly. And I mean, there are so many hard money lenders out there to ping. And by the way, they're just packed full of valuable information and resources.
Yes. But I've noticed that many of them are pretty tight-lipped. You've got to seek them out. They don't seek you out. So just keep that in mind.
That is a very good point, and that's something that, even without being told, that I've always believed in. You don't. A real hard money lender is not going to go out there and, I mean, I guess it depends on how they present themselves and how they say it. But we see all too often in like a lot of these Facebook groups and all these at RIAs, we see people out there, claiming that they're lenders, but essentially they're just brokers. They're brokering money. A real hard money lender is not going to be out there telling you, over and over and over again, and marketing themselves as a hard money lender. They are highly sought after. They're a real one does not have to advertise. Let's put it that way. A real one will be sought out. A real one will be found without much of without them saying much of anything. It's going to be mostly word of mouth. Those are the best ones you can find.
Yep, 100%. All right, so we've covered pretty much all the big items on the title company. And
by the way, I also wanted to say this. You mentioned earlier about one of the questions, or the questions you should ask a title company on whether or not they do creative finance stuff. I think if you just narrowed that down, you could eliminate a lot of chatter back and forth, and eliminate a lot of title companies if you simply ask them just that one question: have you closed, and do you close subject to deals?
Subject to deals, yeah.
Because subject to is kind of like the super top level stuff. That's the most intricate stuff. Yep. So if they close that, they're probably not going to have issues with a lot of the other creative finance strategies. So
yep, that's interesting. And yes, and also another good question asked. We talked about sub 2, but another good question asked, if you're talking about the selling side of it, like we do too, do you close wraps, right? And if you have to explain what a wrap is, then you could have ended the call already. Or if you hear a pause, or you have to say, I don't know, I'll have to check with legal, then no. If the transaction coordinator person, the person closing the title or involved in the process, sometimes there's two, right? There's an actual closer, and then there's the transaction coordinator or whatever. If they don't know, then that's a problem. So if those people can't answer whether we do subject to deals or not, then you need to find a different title company.
Right. Good call. Yeah. So I know we're getting towards the end of this. Let's just kind of wrap it around, and talk about the relationship with the title company. I said at the very top of this, talked about how a box of donuts goes a long way with a title company. And it does. I promise you, if you walk into an office full of ladies at 8 a.m. in the morning, and you have bagels, they're going to be super excited to see you. But we also have to talk about some of the I don't want to say legal's not the word I'm looking for, but kind of some of the logistics of the deal. And that involves preparedness, being prepared being prepared to take your deal to that title company. It's great. Everybody loves donuts, but not everybody loves paperwork. So, uh, so one thing that we need to really concentrate on is having your paperwork in order. Don't make their job any more difficult than it needs to be. If they don't, it's just like anything else. It's just like any other business. If you are a pain in the ass, they're not going to want to do business with you. So again, if you want, I don't know if you have thrown up that documents package again, but
Yep.
if you walk into a title company with something like what we've put together, I can promise you, they're gonna maybe the first closing they're gonna want to go over it with you, or maybe they're gonna look at you a little sideways. But if you stick with them and you have your stuff in order and it is well orchestrated, I promise you they're still going to do business with you.
Yep. Yep.
And they're going to they're going to love you. They're going to
100%. Yep. And you have your documents. One of the, especially with the subject to deal. So you have the seller package that needs to be signed, right? All these documents by the seller. You can do some of it ahead of time, but a lot of time it's all going to be at closing because some of it has to be notarized. Blah blah blah. You have that, and then you have your buyer side, and you have those packages, and you send an email. Here's the seller package that I need to have included. Here's the buyer package that I need to have included, and you just get that lined out like you said, and you come in with the bagels when you close. Or like I like to do, I send like edible arrangements or have deliveries made to them just completely unawares, right, during the middle of the day. And it's like, oh, well, what's this for? Like all the surprise stuff. It's all good, man. You will be shocked and stunned about how magically your last minute transaction, sometimes sub two deals have a pressure, so a clock on it, so to speak. You'll be shocked and stunned about how they drop everything to get your deal done.
Yeah, it's true. I know. I just think back to the title company that I really like to use so many times, and this just has to do with me being organized with these documents and organized with the closings. I'll have everything lined up. I mean, literally every T dotted, I dotted, T crossed, checkbox. I have the whole thing completely ready to go. But then I'll call up after I get a deal, and let's say that it's about to be foreclosed on. It's got to close in 3 days. No title company wants to hear that. No closer wants to hear that at all.
No, they want 30 days plus, brother. Yes.
If you build that relationship, and I'm just getting this vision in my head because my closer, she kind of runs around really frantically, like
yes,
in there, and she's like sweating, and so it's like I feel really bad for bringing her this deal, but like, hey, I got to get this done, and you know what? Because we have a great relationship, she does it. She does it for me, and I've done that so many times to her. I feel terrible. I feel awful about it. But I think she knows that we're solid. I think she knows that we don't mess around, and
she doesn't even. She doesn't really even ask us questions. She goes, and she honestly, she's asked me several times. She goes, "Are you going to send that to me, or do you want me to do it?" No, ma'am. I'll send it. I was like, absolutely, I'll send it to you. Don't want us to use my documents. Like that's how much she trusts us because she already knows, right? Like we know she doesn't question our documents. The first time you do that, she will send it to her underwriter or her attorney or whatever to look at, and never had a question since, right, brother? Never been another problem. So yes.
She only calls me if there's something that shows up on title, or if if there's a problem with the seller, or if there's a problem with our buyer. That's the only time I hear from her. She's very kind of nose to the grind type of person, and I kind of like it that way. I don't want to be going back and forth constantly. She just does her job. We give her the stuff we need in perfect form, and it's done. It's great.
I just want to leave. Let's just wrap it up with just saying this, which is one of kind of the quotes that you're in charge of your orchestra when it comes to the deal, right? You're in charge. The title company works for you. Do not let them run your deal.
That's
You
right.
run your deal. The title company needs to do what you want them to do. And if they don't, then it's time for a new title company. That's it. Now, not illegal, like don't give me your risk, but especially with this, as we talk about, we have our set paperwork and we have the set, and if they start questioning any of that, say, nope, this is what I need and here's why we need it. Once you build that relationship and you get that, but don't let the title company run your deal. You run your deal, period. So,
Yeah.
and if you want to learn how we do that, a lot of people are amazing. Just say, well, I didn't even know I could do that. Shit, yeah, it's your deal. Just like when you go to the doctor is working for you, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in your best interest. It's actually okay to ask questions to the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? They're not God. They're a doctor. They have some more advanced education in a particular area than you do, but that doesn't mean they know your body better than you do. It's the same thing for your deal. You know your deal. If you do a lot of subject to deals, you're an expert in subject to deals, right? Don't let the title company tell you otherwise. That's all we're saying. And you can learn how to do that if you partner with us. The last shameless plug of the day right there on screen.
Yes, sir. Man, I don't know. This time flew. I took up all the time again, didn't I?
No, actually, I think I went on a couple rants too because it's just fresh in my mind from doing it. And I will just say this too, like one of the reasons we kept the deal. I'll be honest. One of the reasons I kept the deal with this title company is because they've gone out of their way to do deals for me and other circumstances in the past, and I felt like, okay, we'll figure that. I assure you, we will get the property back in trust later. I can always do it after closing. It's not a life or death issue. I wanted to make sure that I kept that relationship with that title company because they do great work, right? And they have helped me out many times in the past on other deals. So it's just like, okay, just one hurdle to overcome, mental note to self. This type of transaction needs to be over here with this other title company. That's why you need 2 or 3 great title companies. Really, you're right, though. You only need one high quality one, but it doesn't hurt to have 2 or 3, and sometimes you go to them for different reasons and all that too. But that's why you need to partner with us so you can learn how to do that savvy wise, right?
Yeah. So let's issue a little bit of a challenge here today. Anybody watching this, go out today. If you don't have a title company that you work with regularly, particularly if you're doing creative finance and subject to deals and stuff like that, go out, make 5 posts in 5 different investor Facebook groups, or make 5 phone calls to title companies and ask them that one question. Do you guys close subject to deals? That's all you got to ask them. And if they say no, you move on. It's real simple. Easy process. So that's the challenge. Go out and do it today. And I don't know, maybe you throw in the comments and tell us what your results were. Something like that.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. With all that said, we will be on a break next week because, as we mentioned, we are going to be having our annual business meeting in Los Cabos, Mexico. I know, damn the bad luck, right? Maybe we'll talk about savvy tax write-offs and LLCs and great business banking. But maybe that's a different podcast episode. But for now, we will bid you adieu, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
Take care, guys.